It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show for Thursday, as John said. So happy it's Thursday. And this is April 17th. This is the C block, which means we started at about 7:40. I'm looking at the wrong clock. Okay, John, I have to be honest with you. You've mentioned this a couple times so far. Maybe I'm missing something. What are you talking about with 99.1, Joy 99, and KDHX? Is there a story that I'm missing here?
Yeah, they put an offer in to buy KDHX.
Really?
Yeah, it's only at the top of STL Today.
Okay, hold on. I just looked at STLPR, but I didn't see that. There's the other crazy thing. Okay, we didn't even talk about this. KWMU, the friends of KWMU should buy the station and have like KWM2, KWM2 or something. The call letters could be KWT with KWM2. It's okay. Let me look at this. So it's funny.
Yeah, and by the way, St. Louis Public Radio also has an updated story about KDHX today as well.
I don't see it. I'm looking at it right now. I do see this story, which is sort of funny. Okay, here's the headline. Chris Zimmerman, the CEO, Blue CEO sees hockey lifting downtown and St. Louis's mood too. The hell you say, Chris? Come on. Have you looked at the attendance of the Cardinals game? It's not like the team sucks. The team's actually doing pretty good, but nobody's showing up at the games anymore. John, why do you think that is? Good.
Yeah, and let's get back to the original subject. So the headline from the Post-Dispatch is, Joy FM joins bidding war for KDHX.
Hold on, man. Look at this. But you have
the potential sale of beleaguered. What a great word. The potential sale. This is by Dan Neiman of the Post-Dispatch, former food reporter. The potential sale of beleaguered community radio station KDHX has turned into a bidding war between two powerhouse evangelical Christian radio outlets. So they filed a motion. They, being Joy 99, wants to buy KDHX for $5.5 million.
See, I'm looking at STL Today. It doesn't even show up here. I'm seeing students' visas revoked for minor offenses. Can you do a British accent?
Yeah, we don't need to read the whole headlines, Brad. So why don't I just email it to you, and then in the interim you can bring it up, okay?
Okay.
You could also choose to Google STL Today Joy 99.1 and look at the very first result, but you don't have to.
Well, but see, here's the interesting thing. And it's so funny because, in fact, I just talked to I told you the story. I talked to, was it Tuesday? I talked to Sandy Brown, who's the head woman over there at they call it Gateway Creative Broadcasting, which is the company that owns the stations. And if they got it, that would mean they would now own 3 stations, because they currently own 99.1, which they've had for some time, and they bought, I guess, about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even longer than that, they bought 95.5, which is now Boost. It used to be Boost 101.9, which is now the News Talk STL guys. You just blink and things change in the radio business. And this would be their 3rd station in St. Louis. So interesting. So now the crazy thing about this is, once again, this is how these religious organizations work. They don't have to get a loan. They just write a check. So
yeah, isn't that nice?
The EMF people would, if they were paying $4.8 million for KDHX, that would be like you and me dropping a couple bucks on the sidewalk, going like, "Oh, somebody else can pick that up. I don't want to bend over and get it."
And that's good for them, right? Like, we should applaud somebody that can just write a check and not, what the story of the key office backroom deal. Some people could hobble together $150,000 and I guess the KDHX board is supposed to take their word that they'll totally back that loan up, right?
John, you're making fun of those guys. I mean,
I am. I definitely am.
Their heart's in the right place, okay?
And you know what? You can take that and $7 to Starbucks with a Save Local Radio bumper sticker, and you can get a cup of coffee.
So, see, this is where John and I come from 2 different worlds. John comes from a Fortune 100 company background. I come from originally a corporate broadcasting background, but for the past 40 years of my life, I've run my own small little operations. I ran my traffic network, which at one point in time I employed, I think, 30 people. But once again, in this big scheme of things, 30 people is nothing. I always find it interesting that small businesses are considered up to like 500 employees. I mean, when you get 500 employees, to me, that's not a small business. That's not somebody running.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Brad.
That's not somebody running a flower shop on Main Street in some downtown area. Anyway, interesting. So did you send that to me?
Yeah, I sent it to your Westplex email address.
Okay.
So it turns out, Brad, they actually what just came out in the Monday filing was that Joy 99.1 actually put the original offer in back in December for $5.5 million. So, so there's a bidding war for sure.
Well, hold on a minute. They made the bid. They made the bid back in December. So why didn't the KDHX people take it? Why did they take the $4.8 million from the EMF people?
I don't know. They originally the original letter of, I don't know. We have to go through. And Brad, remember, I'm reading this in real time along with you, so I haven't really had time to digest it.
In Monday's filing, Gateway revealed that it had first offered to purchase KDHX licensed broadcasting tower and other equipment for $5.5 million in December. December 20 letter of intent to that effect was signed by Brett Dempsey, general manager of Gateway, and Kelly Wells, executive director of KDHX. The offer also included a $400,000 loan. The station will continue broadcasting until the sale could be completed. Monday's filing by Gateway included a $500,000 loan on terms. It says it will be equal to or better than the terms of a similar loan made by K-Love. KDHX filed. See, this whole thing is so crazy. I still say, John, and once again, for those people who are going to sue me for saying this, for Kelly Wells and all the other people.
Nobody's going to sue you because unless I link to it on Twitter, nobody's going to hear it. Go ahead, Brad.
Wow, that makes me feel good, John.
Keep going. Let's go.
It's to the point where there is skullduggery abounding here. There's something going on behind the scenes. There's somebody who's getting their palm greased, one or all of the KDHX board members. And if you look at what's happened all along, this is the same situation. There's stuff that's going on behind the scenes that is like, as in the terms of one of my old bosses, Richard Miller, bad pizza. There's bad pizza here, okay? And there's numerous people that are getting, money put in their bank account. Oh, how'd that $10,000 show up in my bank account? Oh.
So they're committing some kind of fraud or skullduggery, as you say it. And it's not just, hey, we're going to get a lump sum of money and then we're going to run an online KDHX site. We'll be able to pay some people. We'll be able to make it a viable operation. If there's a lot of money involved, somebody is corrupt, right, Brad?
Well, John, if you look at the history of what's happened with this board at KDHX, I've told you the story.
You have many times.
I have personal friends who loved KDHX, sent big checks, and I haven't talked to this woman in probably 4 or 5 years. Man, I take that back. I talked to her about 3 years ago because it's sort of a weird story. If I gave the example, she wanted me to do something for me at a fundraiser, and I was going to do it, and then I got COVID and I couldn't do it. But the last time we talked about this was probably about 5 years ago. Her and her husband used to write big checks to Double Helix, which is the parent company of KDHX. And when this whole crazy thing happened with the board, she told me that these people are trying to kill the station. And at that point in time, she says, nobody understands what they're doing. It doesn't make any sense. They're doing things that just go counter to, and they're ticking off the volunteers. It would be like the Salvation Army, okay? I was involved with the Salvation Army for years, and they couldn't have been nicer to me. And it would be like, them all of a sudden one day saying, Brad, we'd love to have you as a volunteer, but you know what? In order for you to volunteer next year, you have to pay us $5,000 to be a volunteer. I go like, why would I pay you to be a volunteer?
From the story that you've told recently, Brad, there's a difference between, you said that she thinks that the board was trying to kill the station and they don't know what they're doing. So there is a difference between incompetence and acting out of, disloyalty or sabotage.
Well,
so was she saying, and you can't answer both, Brad. Is she saying that the board was incompetent or that they were trying to sabotage the station because they're evil superheroes for some reason?
John, I'm going to throw you a curve. Their incompetence was sabotaging the station. Okay. How about that?
So they didn't set out a decade ago to join the board because they said, we're going to run a long-range plan, and in 2025, we're going to sabotage KDHX. You're saying that they were just incompetent, and that is in effect sabotage.
Yes, because
when you do the conspiracy talk, you got to be a little more specific than just everybody's feather in their own nests and things like that. And also, Brad, so if I was a contributor to KDHX and I wrote them a check every year, I would feel pretty confused or baffled or angry. Let's say the board of KDHX takes a whole bunch of money from Joy or K-Love or whoever and cashes out. Why are you offended by that?
Why am I offended by this?
Yeah, like personally. So you've never written a check to KDHX Why do you feel offended that a successful mega corporation is going to come in and run a radio station? Like, how does that affect you?
John, here in my studio here, you don't realize you've never seen my studio before. John and I are not in the same place. He's one place, I'm somewhere else. I'm in the Palacious Westplex Talk
I've
studios.
been to your old studio off of Kisker.
Okay. Right here, I have a couch that I bought at a garage sale from a psychiatrist who was retiring. So I'm going to lay down in my psychiatrist couch. Okay, hold on. I'm moving over here. I'm laying down. Okay. What did you say again, Dr. John? What?
Yeah, I asked you why. So there's a business transaction going on that does not affect you. So you won't get paid, whether KDHX, the board, whether they take money from Joy 99.1 or whether they take it from K-Love. It won't affect your paycheck. It won't affect what value meal you get at McDonald's. Why do you care if the board is gonna make a competent business decision? Why does this affect you?
Because, John, I am a seasoned citizen. I am pushing 90 years old. I see things that you, as a young whippersnapper, don't see. Okay.
So explain it to me and answer the question without dodging it.
I have a broad view of my industry, and what's happening is the K-Loves of the world are taking. And this is interesting because a little history. Back in the day, all the not-for-profits, all the what they call the NCE non-commercial educational stations, had to be between 88 and 92 megahertz.
Okay, yeah. So let's get around to answering the question.
Okay. They're now buying commercial radio stations and making them non-commercial. Exactly what Joy 99 did. Joy 99 used to be
And
KFUO.
this affects you how?
Because of the fact that in two examples, in New York, when K-Love people took over the station, they fired a staff of 120. In Chicago.
And do you work at KDHX?
What's that?
You don't work at KDHX,
No,
right?
but what I'm saying is it's essentially the big picture issue is that all of a sudden if you have an employer who one day is hiring and once again, a lot of these people were making some serious money. WPLJ was an after union station. I think the guys who were working the midnight shift were making like $100,000 a year. All of a sudden those jobs are gone. They're just gone, okay? And so what happens is people who have aspiring to maybe, I listened to that WPLJ guy for years, blah, 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 blah. I want to be just like him. All of a sudden they're going, man, I don't want to do that because I'm going to work at a station.
So that's a great hypothetical. I love that, Brad. So let's get back to how KDHX's board making a smart financial decision, how that affects you in a positive or negative way.
They're not making a smart financial position because of the fact.
And you know better than the board of KDHX. So let's talk about how, instead of disputing the smart business decision, how does the sale of KDHX affect you, Brad? And why do you care so much?
Because I still love this industry. And I hate to see it being destroyed. And especially, let's go back 20, 30 years. Let's go back to 1985, okay? When I can't remember when EMF, K-Love started or stuff like that. If you wanted to broadcast music to Christian listeners and tell them the word of God and stuff like that, you had to buy radio stations, okay? You don't need that anymore because almost everybody has this amazing piece of equipment in their hand where they can listen to anything in the world. They want to listen to Russian polka music, they can find a Russian polka online station, okay? The fact that you have, and the interesting part of this is if you go and you read the article, which you made fun of about the guys meeting with Vince Shamel and stuff like that. The thing in the article was they talked about the fact that KDHX was so important to the local music community. They played music from local musicians. They had local musicians on the air, some of them on the air as guests, some of them on the air as actual DJs.
And there's no doubt it was important to the local business community.
They promoted local economy. They promoted the fact that go to Joe's Bar tonight, have a few brewskis, listen to this great band, and rub elbows with your fellow band lovers and stuff like that. And a company's going to come in and essentially they're going to say, it's all gone. We're going to put the 5,694th station of K-Love on the air.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? So shouldn't that local bar owner, if KDHX was so important, shouldn't that bar owner have bought some advertising on KDHX, Brad?
They did. If you listen to it.
Oh, they did. Then why, if KDHX was such a great idea, then why weren't they more successful selling advertising? Why didn't they have $1 million in the bank, Brad? Well, COVID hit. COVID. Yeah, COVID's the reason radio sucks. If KDHX was such a great station, why didn't advertisers want to support them, Brad?
John, I've had sort of a rough week, and it's weeks like this that make me just want to go to the transmitter side and take the back off.
No, Brad, don't you dare talk like that.
Take the back off the transmitter
and
not turn the switch off and go, what's this do?
Go ahead.
I don't. It bothers me because of the fact that for years this has been going on, where you see incompetent people, these incompetent people destroy something that someone has built. I mean, the crazy thing about me running my business, to this day, I can look at things that I've done. I can look at this, I can look at that, and to the point where every once in a while it hits me, someone says to me, you really helped me out with my business, or, even to the point where I got a new client on the air. Stay cool, it's not on this station, it's on Westplex 107. I worked hard for this guy and his family-owned company. They couldn't be happier, and they're getting business off it. That makes me feel good. Okay, you're not necessarily going to get that direct response from ad A on KDHX results in sale
true.
B on a Joe's Bar and Grill, but it's to the point where if you look at the cumulative efforts, and I think probably more importantly, KDHX is a very unique station, okay? And it has a unique set of listeners, and it has a unique purpose and unique, skill set and the whole bit. All of a sudden, you're going to turn it into something, and just like when I talked to Sandy Brown, if you were to listen to Joy 99 today, and Sandy will probably get upset with me if I say this, but to a certain extent, she'd agree. If you listen to Joy 99 and then you listen to K-Love, you're going to hear a lot of the same music.
It's the same stuff.
You're going to hear
Brad, I think this is the whole reason why I push back, Brad. I think you care too much.
Okay.
And because this is your industry, Brad. You've seen stations like KDHX get gobbled up by these conglomerates, but it's also inevitable. And nobody's going to stop. Nobody. No, you could have 1,000 people in Tower Grove South standing out up and down a street. Nobody is going to stop K-Love and Joy 99 from buying it. It's just going to happen. It's just a fact. I hate the fact that it could raise your blood pressure 5 pulse points in a minute.
John, let me give you an example of this. Katy Perry comes off of the phallic space cone, whatever you want to call it. And she walks out the door and she kisses the ground and she looks up at the press and she says, you know what? I'm going to buy KDHX and I'm going to keep the music just the way it is. So there, John.
I'm adding that to when Katie and I have a little pillow talk. I'm going to add that to our list. Instead of asking her to leave money on the dresser, I'm going to say, have I talked to you about KDHX?
And Gail King comes out after it goes, Katie, you're right. We need to save this great radio station for the St. Louis area. And then Jeff Bezos squeezed, what's her name? His girlfriend / fiance.
Loretta Lauren Sanchez or something.
Yeah, Lauren Sanchez. She comes out and she says, Jeff, if you really want to marry me, you'll write a big whopping check and you'll save KDHX. See, that's where you're wrong, John. That could have happened, and you don't know if that's true or not. I mean, you can't.
I know. I shouldn't be such a naysayer. You're right, but it does make for great radio.
John, when your friends text you this afternoon or today and go, what in the hell are you doing with that weirdo on the radio, John? What are you going to tell them?
I'm going to say, stop bad-mouthing the new owner of KDHX.
I wish that were the case. Okay, bye, John.
See you on Friday.